Like a changing channels.
That's when something blows up. I'll get your next Michelob Ultra before.
All right, if we could put everybody on mute, please. Thank you. Well, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, April 20, 2021. Meeting of the Finance Committee, Council as a whole. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stacy, when you're ready, if you could please call the roll.
Councilman Gary Donovan,
Councilman Gary Donovan, Councilman at Large, present.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor,
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Councilor here.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky,
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, First District, present.
Councilman William X. Conlon,
Councilman William X. Conlon, Second District, present.
Councilwoman Elizabeth Johnston,
Councilwoman Liz Johnston, 3rd District, present.
Councilman Mitchell Galignano is absent. Councilwoman Robin Hamilton,
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, 5th District, present.
Councilman Peter Massaro is also absent. Councilwoman Trinae McGee,
Councilwoman Trinae McGee, 7th District, present.
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli,
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli, 8th District, present.
Councilman Robert Bruno,
Councilman Robert Bruno, 9th District, present.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen,
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen, 10th District, present.
and Chairman Ron Quagliani.
Council at Large, Ron Quagliani, present.
Good.
Okay, Stacy, if I could ask you to read the call of the meeting into the record.
The West Haven City Council Finance Committee, Council as a whole, will conduct budget meetings on Mayor Nancy R. Rossi's recommended budget for fiscal year 2021-2022, as listed below. Meetings will take place remotely via web conferencing. Departments will receive email instructions on logging into the meetings.
Okay, and tonight, as we said, is Tuesday, April 20, 6 p.m. is Public Works, which consists of engineering, building maintenance, highway and park maintenance, and water pollution. 7 p.m. is finance, 7:30 p.m. is information technology. At this time, I'll turn the meeting over to the finance chair, Councilwoman Hosky.
Thank you, Chairman Quagliani. I do see that Tom McCarthy's here, Abdul is here. Tom, do you have anybody else there with you that you want to just let us know for the record that's on?
I do, Councilwoman. I have the Chief of Staff, Lou Esposito, here for any possible building maintenance issues. And I also have Mark Magri here from WPCA.
Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for attending. I generally start off by letting every department kind of, you can, if there's anything you want to go over first with us about the budget or anything you want to update us on, the floor is yours.
Sure, thank you very much. So I think now is probably a good time to maybe reflect on what has happened since the last time we came in front of you. Happy to do that. Thank you for the opportunity, Councilwoman. First of all, just a hello, good evening to everybody on the council. Thank you for taking the time out to do this. And with that said, I'll just jump right in. So obviously this year was a very different year. I know you've heard that, so I'll just go through some of the specifics. The 9th of March, we put up a notice on the walls at City Hall that indicated last year that out of an abundance of caution, we were going to shut down water fountains. And as everybody knows where we've gone from them, some of the highlights for the Department of Public Works. I'm quite proud of the fact that we were involved in standing up a health clinic to get inoculations out. I'm proud of the fact that during COVID, Public Works fed people. We put 2 trucks for a year on a Thursday, feeding our seniors throughout the city. We, Public Works, have done many, many food drops with, obviously, with some of your own members there. So we continue to do that. We have trucks up at Vertical Church. We've had a wonderful partnership with them. At the same time, we dealt with one of the most significant storms to hit Connecticut in 20 years. Believe it or not, it was just a storm, but it was quite the storm. It walloped us pretty hard. We are not still fully recovered from that. With the advent of spring, we've really gotten a good jump on. And in between some of the things, we Public Works prepared for one of the most contentious voting sessions last year, which City of West Haven handled magnificently. And we've kept our folks safe in these trying times. And with that said, I would, I certainly will be able to answer any specific questions anyone has, but there are many good things that went on and obviously some challenges as well.
I would be interested in hearing just a little bit more in depth about the partnerships that Public Works has developed throughout the city. I think that, Westies definitely want to know, the different businesses that came out in support of the community when we went through such an insane year. I mean, I know Vertical Church, definitely huge. But I don't want to put, words in your mouth, but, if you want to maybe I don't know if you can name them all, but
Sure.
I just think that they deserve some recognition by the council and maybe the community as a whole,
Thank you, Councilwoman. With the risk of leaving somebody out, I'd like to touch on a few of the people. So from day one, Vertical Church has, and for the record, I'm not a member of that church, but I cannot tell you how impressed I am and continue to be with the way that they wrote in to help the city. Currently, we have 2 refrigerated trailers that are on the Vertical Church property. The Department of Public Works has been renting a forklift for a year. A lot of it is reimbursable under COVID, but whether it was or it wasn't, that's the public portion of Public Works. So we partnered up with the USDA. They gave us food boxes. I'm looking at around the room here. I see a lot of the members who showed up to an awful lot of these events we did. We brought food. Listen, my number one partner, his birthday's today, Robert Bruno. I yell at him that we don't take photographs, we don't publicize what we do, but I'd be remiss if I did not publicly thank him for just how much he has done on behalf of the city, whether it was pulling trees off of houses and not wanting to charge us for it, to being my partner to pick up the food and get it down there. And you all have helped, but I would be remiss if I didn't give him a particular thanks. And at the same time, I tell him never to put it in the paper what we do, because I don't believe it's about taking the photograph. It's about actually helping the people. So he's a guy who doesn't take photographs. He actually helps. I would also like to thank their restaurants, whether it was from day one. We've had restaurants that have, for over a year, continued to put pizzas into. We had a hotel that was stood up at the height of the COVID, at the height of its scare, to help people who were home insecure here in West Haven, and we fed those folks. And so some of the stuff that has gone on behind the scenes, was Public Works that also retrofitted these buildings to make them as safe from COVID as we could. And also, was a lot going on to retrofit parks so that we could have the free flow of people and minimize the risk to everybody. So I appreciate you, Councilwoman, giving us the opportunity to just thank some of the people who went above and beyond and continue to do so.
And I know we had a visit by the Vice President of the United States, and I know Public Works as well as the police department, were very involved in that. But I think that, you guys did an outstanding job. So you don't get appreciated very much. And I could tell that Councilman Bruno is very uncomfortable. He took his glasses off on and off 3 times while you were, recognizing him and the work he has done behind the scenes. So I definitely do appreciate that. I do have a couple just. Can you just speak to some of the work? I see that, you guys are out there. I have an internet connection is unstable, so I'm sorry if things are not coming across clear for me. Can you talk about some of the work that Public Works is doing, or some of the plans that you have coming out of COVID and getting, just the community ready for the onslaught of people coming out of their homes? Because I see some of the work, but as you said, your guys aren't in the paper or taking pictures. So
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman. So I'll give you an update on sort of what we're in the works. As you all know, if you've been on the roads, we are both milling and paving at the same time right now. So we actually were removing roads today and putting new roads in. It's a process that is much better served to doing early than late. So whenever we have, we as a city, as you finance guys know, we tend to bond in arrears. So for paving, we bond a couple of years behind. We actually had the money this year early, so we were the first city to pave this year. It's never a smart thing in an election year to do it that way, but our mayor told us, don't have paving be an election issue. So we're getting it out of the way. Please God, if some of the federal money comes in, we're paving 3 times this year, and none of them before the relatively before the election. Parks, I'll just give you a list of what's going on, what we have. Brennan Fields, last year we transformed it from a baseball field, which it was not, you couldn't hit a home run there without hitting a house. So it was not a very good site for baseball. We took the mound down, made it a soccer field. We removed the exterior fence, and we are leveling and are painting all of the playgrounds throughout the city. Contact Drive, we are clearing over there, creating 2 pollinator pathways and redoing the swing set. Glade Street, we are currently redoing the basketball court. The resurfacing is ongoing. Moores Park, we are redoing the basketball court there and the swing sets. Ocala Park, same thing, fencing is being upgraded and also the swing sets for the kids. Painter Park, the fencing along the ball field is now getting a double gate into the wooden structure itself. I believe somebody here asked for that on the council. So
that would be me. Yes, thank you.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
It made all the sense in the world that we would protect the children. So that's being installed as we speak.
Amazing.
We are restaining the wood. It's been 5 years. So that is on schedule. Shingle Hill, we've already redone that is finished, the painting there, and we are in the process of just wrapping up, reclaiming some of the woods that were lost back there. Same thing at Swampscott. 3rd Avenue Park, we've cleared from the storm damage. When we went and looked at that basketball court recently, we have been told by Hinding, who are the premier, they're a West Haven company, we're blessed, but they are one of the premier new and resurfacing contractors in the country, that 3rd Avenue basketball court cannot be saved. So I would pose it to the council to maybe think about, and obviously we have our 3rd district councilwoman, to see do we want to go back with a basketball court? Does the community desire to have something else? So I would await but that basketball surface, because of all the trees in there, is no longer useful. We are also, in result of many citizen complaints, we are in the process of putting 850 signs along the shorefront from the roundabout to the the boat ramp all the way to the water, 1 block up off of Ocean, Captain Thomas, or Beach. We are also, we've taken care of some of our own needs that have been deferred. We have redone the driveway going into the park maintenance, which was just one of those things that got deferred, but it is the entrance to our facility. So we went ahead and redid the drainage there and put that in. We redid the bathhouse last year. We've not been able to open it because of COVID. We are down in the Grove right now. We took down 71 trees. Before people say that we took out good trees, these were all storm damaged trees and or weeds. We intend, the mayor tasked me today with getting some appropriate trees. In fact, she wants to do one for Arbor Day that belongs down there, not the stuff that we allowed to grow.
No, thank you for addressing that, because that was one of my questions. I saw that people, I think, I saw all the storm damage. Like working where I work, I know damaged trees, what needs to come down. So I had seen that down at the water. So that was one of my questions. So thank you for addressing that and then clarifying for the community that you're going to be going in there and planting.
And Councilwoman, I can tell you, we have paved every year since we've been in office. Unfortunately, you end up paving in November because you don't have the money. And you end up, by the time Tilcon puts you in the schedule, you're one of the last towns. So whenever we know we have the money, we are always eager. It's a better product if you can get the paving in when the weather is warm, and it just is a better product if you do it this way.
No, I'm absolutely. So now that you've mentioned, and this is going to be my last question, but because you just brought it up, can you tell us, like, has the paving, and I know you said that, we're doing it so early and we might be coming up with more money, but has the paving been consistent year over year, or have you added to it? Like, I know last year, I think in my district, we did Kelsey Avenue, not all of my district, but a good part of Kelsey Avenue is my district. And I know I had come to you saying that was the main, to me, it was just a main drag for high school kids, right? I was like, and you guys were like, yes, definitely, we should pave that. But have we been consistent year over year? Like, has it gotten better, or is it pricing that kind of dictates what you can do? Can you just maybe tell us a little bit more about that?
We've always sort of operated on an $800,000 a year. We've done it all over the way where each of the 10 districts, spoke for a couple of streets. And as you guys know, I did go to you to find out your list of worst streets. So we have another round of paving scheduled for May. And this time we're able to put some more thought into it. A lot of what we do is triage. What's bleeding the worst? That's where you end up jumping from, area of town to area of town, and it gets very, very expensive. I know this is sort of counterintuitive, but we have another round of paving that we have scheduled for the end of May. Its value is right around $1 million. The milling of that will be less than when we do 800,000. It's because we have time to join streets together. And that is the most cost-effective way. You don't always get the worst streets done that way. So again, this first round of paving is the absolute still worst streets. We try and do main thoroughfares. For the most part, we've not done any residential areas. I believe we should do our primary streets first.
No, thank you so much. I'm sorry, everybody. Any other questions in regards to any of the topics that Councilman Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner McCarthy, thank you for showing up. First of all, I do want to give you personally kudos, because people don't know what you personally do. You do go over and above. And like you said, you don't pat yourself on the back for it. So again, thank you. The parks you were mentioning, sir, Swampscott, was that on there?
Swampscott is on our list. We begun, Councilman, last year tackling it, but there's there's an issue over there that is much more beyond what a lot of these other parks are getting right now, which is just sort of a facelift. That park needs some serious regrading. It's in a hole, and the playground material itself is obsolete. It cannot be refurbished. As I recall, there's a couple of those ride-on, which quite frankly, we have to take it. So everything has to come out of there. We have to regrade it. So that's an extensive, that one's sort of on the back burner for now.
Do you think it possibly would be done this year, sometime this year, or?
Yeah, I believe that towards the end of the year, I'll be able to redo that park, and it'll be ready for next spring. That's the honest goal on that one.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm all for now.
Councilwoman Johnston?
Hi, Tom. I'm upset to hear that about Third Avenue Park. I didn't know about that. I was just seeking some clarity. So are you saying that it can't be resurfaced, or are you saying it can't be used as a basketball court at all?
I cannot resurface it, so it's deteriorated to the point. The problem is you have these huge trees around the basketball court itself, and they have damaged the court, the roots themselves. We either have to remove the trees and put in a new basketball court, or just think about relocating the basketball court someplace else in there, or do we put some other form of activity in there? We certainly haven't. We found this out last week from Hinding, that it's not savable.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing to not have something else to walk to.
Oh, I mean, listen, we could put something else up there. That's
right. Yeah. Thanks. Just digesting.
Mm-hmm.
Councilwoman, I just want to jump on what Councilwoman Johnston said. My sons grew up playing basketball at that court. My son broke his wrist at that court. Do we know what the cost of putting in a new court would be? I mean, not that we weren't, I'm just wondering as far as figures, because I know what it cost at the Nike site, right? I'm just curious.
And that of course was a refurbished. That was not a new. So, I mean, I can tell you, you're looking at about 20 to 30, depending on how complex they are, to resurface these 20 to 30,000. So again, it's not undoable, but I'd rather tell you that this one I can't save.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Councilwoman Hamilton, I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Chairwoman. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Councilwoman.
I guess I never knew until I was on the council and met you as our, and you became the Commissioner of Public Works. I never knew the vast umbrella of what it encompassed. And I think some of it is just from your heart, not under your job title. And I appreciate you. And you're right. And Councilman Bruno, I've seen him really do things that we probably couldn't afford during the times that he reached in. And I thank you both. And so I just want to ask you, since this is the week of bulk trash, I want to give you an opportunity to maybe explain to us about the process. I know that you're working with picking up bulk trash and normal pickup, right? So there might be some hour changes, or can you just explain to us, especially mattresses, how are we handling the mattresses? Can you just give us a little background on that?
Thank you. Thank you, Majority Leader. So the first thing I have to admit is the truth, that 30 years from now, I won't be here and people will still put mattresses out on the curb because we just will never get to everybody. Bulk trash began on Monday in the 1st and 3rd districts. And as I tell everybody, we're already 3 days behind. The worst part of the city for bulk, because of the nature of the streets themselves, is typically in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th districts. It tends to get a little lighter as we get into the shore, but by then we're a week behind at that time. The City of West Haven Public Works is now picking up the leaf bags for this week because we only have one contractor for garbage. We don't even have a backup, only one person bid. So if I don't like this guy's performance, I don't have the option to go to the second person. There isn't one. Bulk rules, nobody obeys them, especially in the more transient neighborhoods. I'll put it out again in case anyone is listening. We will take the mattresses for free. You just bring them up to 1 Collis Street, and we are more than happy. We have a mattress dumpster. You put it right in there. We take it for free. The only things that we tell people as a general rule of thumb, it's 6 foot long by 4 foot high. That's as a general guide. We don't participate with you if you remodeled your kitchen. We didn't participate with you in that. You should get rid of that yourself. Chemicals, we get a lot of questions on them. Regional Water Authority, look on the website. Once they start, they do it on a regular basis. You can take everything. And we do not, and no longer can we afford to take tires, which is, and while I have you guys on this subject, I just wanted to mention to you guys that this Thursday, Earth Day, between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., Alex from the Smyrna Group is organizing a cleanup with Department of Public Works down on Spring Street, where Layden is as you go into the boulevard. So I've asked the police department for permission to close the road. They're meeting tonight. We anticipate they will look favorably upon that. And we have about 20 volunteers. Again, Mr. Bruno has given us a wrecker to put on the road, and Alex is going into the water, and we will hook the tires and bikes and televisions, and Bruno will assist us in getting them out of there. So he noted that Alex noted with shock that the Spring Street looked terrible. He was even more shocked when I told him I took 82 of the biggest dumpsters we can find 3 weeks ago out of Spring Street. It's a systemic problem. We as a city have to, it requires cameras. It requires, we have a lead on who has been dumping the tires. So we have a photograph of the vehicle. I won't give any more than that. And the mayor has insisted she wants somebody charged for it. So we are working on that.
Great. I was going to ask you about tires because you wake up and, there's all these tires that are around and they're getting pretty clever.
Mm-hmm.
They're finding new spaces. So I'm glad. I wanted to ask a little bit about surveillance. So that is something that you are looking at, because there are some areas that are real. Marginal Drive is awful. Even though I know it's the New Haven side, but it's the West Haven people that have to look at it. So I want to ask you a budget question. So your budget is on page 84, and there's a line item there that is grounds maintenance line, and it seemed to increase some. I wonder if you can just give us some background on that, please.
I may not be able to give you an individual, but I can, Majority Leader, I can certainly answer that and get that answer to you. So if I'm not aware of why grounds maintenance might have gone over. I'm not sure on that.
Can you tell me, can you give me the definition? What does it encompass? Do you know that?
Yeah, sure. So that would be, theoretically, that is for, Bradley Point. We used to contract that out. $1,000 a month, I believe, is what we used to pay for it. Now we do that in-house. We also, grounds maintenance is also, so we are carrying right now a couple of the schools, Thompson School, Stiles School, that has to be maintained. So if I have to get an outside, if we're too busy, I have to hire an outside company to do that. If you have blighted properties, you would tackle. So it encompasses just a ton of stuff. I didn't notice that it was way out of whack or anything, and it's hard, we don't know that we're going to inherit something that we have to clean.
Councilwoman Hosky, can I just ask another question? Okay, thank you. Speaking of, and we talked about this because I do have a problem condominium in my district that you are well aware of.
I was there today.
It's a thorn in my side.
Yep.
Have we talked about anything like maybe with all the condominiums, I just don't understand why we are cleaning up after condominiums when there's condominium fees that's supposed to take care of disposing of their rubbish. Why are we still doing that? Is there any solution to that?
I think that is a genius question, and it's something we've begun thinking about, and also analyzing how other towns handle trash. It is going to be one of the most significant drivers of fund usage by a city. It's just going to get worse. What we discovered when we looked at the way some of the other towns handle it is, I looked at Milford, for example. Every year, Milford establishes what the rate is for two aspects of the condo, the recycling and the garbage. So they say the value of your one unit for recycling is $3.50 for the week. The value of the trash is, I'm just using round numbers, $6.50, getting you to a total of $10 a week. They multiply that by 52. They say this condo gets has a valuation of $520. After you've proven to the city that you've paid the condo charges for the trash, then the city issues you a check. So we, the city, should get out of the garbage business for condos. It's just my belief. And we should issue them a credit. Year over year, we would have cost certainty, and we would no longer be involved in picking up, stuff all over the place. That's just one piece of the low-hanging fruit. We've also looked, right now we give out a 14-gallon recycling bin. One of the things we've begun to explore is how would a blue recycling 32-gallon container look for everybody. But I will say to you, you're 100% right. The condo association you're talking about in particular has been a nightmare for us to deal with. There's no question.
Well, I thank you with your patience with them. I don't know if I would be so patient. And I hope that they're being issued tickets, and I hope that the tickets are being paid, because sometimes people and organizations don't feel until it hits their pocket. And I don't want to see my tax money just being wasted in one condominium area. Especially if they repeat it and repeat it. They're very aware of what they're doing, and they're taking advantage of our kindness.
I can tell you, Councilwoman, that it appears, we were up there today. It does appear that we are making progress. It's not enormous progress, but they're moving in the right direction. I can tell you we have made enormous progress with our tire company on the Post Road. They removed 20 plus cars, and now several hundred of several thousand tires, but we are making progress.
Is that in my district too?
I suspect it is.
Kind of thought so. Don't blame me for the tires, people.
No, ma'am.
One other question, but I can wait. I can wait if you want me to. Chairwoman. Thank you. Overtime.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you doing with your overtime?
Thank you for that. I honestly think we're doing quite well. Given again, when COVID first hit, we were directed to not have one person in more than one person in a truck, for example. That meant that we spread out. We had people overnight just to keep them safe. We did not allow people to get in a truck with somebody else. So that was a driver of some of the overtime. The storm was declared a federal disaster, and we will get up to 75% of the eligible expenses back, overtime being one. But for instance, you will not see that come back into my overtime account. It goes into the city's general fund. But for the most part, our overtime has not gone crazy.
Can I just ask, is that the storm from August that you're
Yes.
referring to, Isaac? Okay, we had those two winter storms too. I just wanted to make sure that it was just clear for the record.
So that storm, even though it was a storm, is the first one that ever produced a hurricane in Connecticut. It was the third worst storm in the last 20 years. 600,000 people in Connecticut without power. And we are still cleaning up from it. There is no, we believe we had a microburst that came through Painter Park. It just leveled. So again, and I'll take this opportunity, if you don't mind. A lot of what we do is triage. So I've heard many comments, why is the tree down in Painter Park? The tree was left where it was because if you walked down there, you ran the risk of getting killed. So the safest thing for us was to keep the road closed, triage the stuff that was bleeding. And then now we've hired more companies because we can get reimbursed. I have 3 companies out there right now. So the reason we don't do stuff sometimes is not just because we don't want to, it's because it's not safe to at the time.
I think that's it for now. I might be back, but I thank you, Commissioner.
Of course.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
You're welcome. Any other questions for Councilman Cohen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Tom, and everyone for coming this evening. Really appreciate it. Oh, there you are, Tom. I can find you. Just a couple of questions, Tom. On page 80, I think I know the answer to this, but special trash pickup, tipping fees, recycling pickup, they've all gone up about 11, 12%. And I know in the past, the two of us have talked, about a year ago when we first talked, that we, maybe because of our financial position or other reasons, who knows, that we always have trouble trying to get bidders, if you will, people that are willing to bid on our recycle in our garbage, if you will, and our trash. And I'm just wondering, are these increases due to perhaps thinking that we're going to have maybe only one bidder again, or is it just the general increase of things? Because I know it's always been a challenge for the department to, do that. Can you comment on that at all for us?
Of course, thanks, Councilman. So look, the first thing that I'm almost 100% positive of is that we will only have one bidder the next time we bid for our garbage contract. That's been historically, that's been the case, and we would expect it to continue.
Yeah.
It does not give us. So, for example, today, as we're doing, I spoke to the owner of the company 3 times today, and quite frankly, if we're unhappy with him, I'm not sure what my options are. The increased costs you're seeing, to be honest with you, are just flat out cost increases. The cost of getting, it is now more cost effective for us to take our recycling and throw it in with the regular trash than it is to keep it separate. We are a town that does single stream. The better towns figured out a while back that single stream was not, it was cost prohibitive because India is not taking glass or cardboard, China is not taking anything. So they've gone to 4-stream. And that way they are able to monetize the one, product that people do want. We do not have that luxury right now. We use a 14-gallon bin for everything. So I do think the increased, there's a couple of things happening. The amount of places that you can get rid of your trash are reducing. New York City's going out to barges on Pennsylvania. There is no value for any of this commodity, and people are producing more and more stuff. I know, Councilman, we've looked at paper throw, sort of. If you have 1 bag, you pay for 1. If you have 2, you pay, significantly more. I think that, I'm going to need, we are looking at redoing our ordinance as far as trash removal.
Tom, not to interrupt you, because you mentioned it now and you mentioned it before, and I'm going to go to are you considering, or maybe it's not feasible, I just want to be clear on this too, a larger recycling bin if less people are recycling? It's because you said it was cheaper to just throw in with your regular trash, or is that still just a discussion point?
No, we certainly don't want people to throw their recycling away.
Right. Right.
It's just right now it costs more for the municipality to get rid of recycling than it does garbage.
Right. So the recycle bins are going to stay, at least for the most part, relatively the same size right now. Is that
well? One of the things
maybe
that the chairman has asked us to look at is we are roughly 21,000 units of housing.
Right.
A 32-gallon blue recycling garbage can with a cover, bought in bulk, could probably be bought for in the neighborhood of $15 a can. Now, whether we would subsidize those or see if we can work some, typically in order to work a deal out like that with a garbage company, they would want a contract of about 5 years so that they could get the return on their investment in the cans.
Sure.
So those are some of the things I think we are actively looking at.
I just have, if I may, Madam Chair, another question. Yeah, and I'm just going to change gears. I appreciate that, Tom, I really do. Just a clarity for me, you had mentioned the paving, and traditionally in the past, I mean, not in this year's budget per se, but traditionally in the past, we've budgeted $800,000 for paving, whatever, and that was normally bonded, if you will. That was kind of a bonded exercise. And this year, in just so I have clarity here, we have $2 million for street paving, ongoing needs, et cetera. As you described, you want to do another $1 million, maybe in May or what have you. Can you give me a better clarification? It's falling under grants and other sources. That's not the COVID, excuse me, that's not the, is that the distressed cities money from Governor Lamont? Because I know we're not supposed to include that. So can you give me some idea of the definition of, because it's not under bonding, it says grants and other sources. Can you give me some, maybe I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the numbers that.
Okay, it's on page 123.
Yeah.
And to the good point that has been made that we should not be putting in our budget stuff hasn't been approved yet, and we all understand that. But if you take a look at page 123, under the section, middle of the page, grants and other sources, you'll have, after body cameras, you'll have street paving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the $2 million lies. And so I know that it's not being bonded, or at least not in the budget being bonded, or that I see. So I don't know what, sorry, please.
Councilman Tom, if I may, that is monies that's coming from the distressed municipalities. You cannot use that money in your operating budget, but you can use it for capital and infrastructure.
Okay, and then just for my own clear, if I may ask, just so, because that's wonderful. I'm just blowing my mind here. I just want to make sure I get this right. All right, is if I recall, and I'm sorry that I'm taking so much time here, Frank, if I recall, the distressed money from Governor Lamont was about $4.9 million. Half of that I would call bonded money if you wanted to access it, and the other half was I'm going to call it pure cash, like you can use for infrastructure. So about the 2.5 million we're planning on using, or we hope to be using 2 million of it anyway for infrastructure based on the governor's budget.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah, so we still have a little bit more of the governor's money that we could possibly use when it's applicable or once it gets approved. And there would also be some additional bonding available, and that's a whole other story, which we don't have to talk about now. I did not know the distressed money was in this budget. It's not in the budget, but it's in the.
And also, Councilman, if I can, I just wanted to follow on. One of the downfalls of paving in November is that you don't always get everything you wanted done before the plants close.
Right.
So we actually have a small surplus from last year that we put into this year. So the 800 became more like $1 million.
Right. Oh, right. No, perfect. No, as I said, I wasn't aware of the distress. It makes sense. I'm happy to see that actually. Okay. I just have one more thing, and then I'll give other people a turn. I have some smaller things. I do want to say, Tom, and to your department, I do want to thank you because you left out Hubbard Farms Park. I know that you guys have done some, when COVID began, you did a little prep work then, and then you've done some I'm gonna say some clearing of the area to what I call the beginning of phase 2, for lack of anything else. And, obviously when we have our centennial, it's gonna look wonderful. I'd also like to take this time for all of the, like we've been doing through the past year, all of the businesses, private partnerships from, oh my goodness, from Reliable Fence to oh my goodness, to the Grands, to just a whole bunch of businesses in West Haven and around that have really made Hubbard Park, Sherwin-Williams, Lowe's. I mean, they've all done a wonderful thing. You guys have done a wonderful thing, the Hubbards, the Johnstones. So I didn't want to leave out Hubbard Park. And I also—
No, and you know what? I appreciate you mentioning that because, again, I think I've probably, as I said, at the risk of forgetting somebody, if I didn't mention Lorenzo's, if I did, I'd mention again because they actually were a partner of ours from the moment this began, and they never stopped. And you're right. None of this gets done alone. So,
it's wonderful. I mean, there's like 12. I've already missed people. I'm just going to stop there. And I know the mayor appreciates it. I appreciate it. Everyone appreciates it. And I didn't want that to go. I know I'm going off the course here of budget, but I wanted everyone to be aware. And I sincerely thank your whole department for that. Okay. I'm going to stop for now, and I might come back for seconds later. Okay. Thank you, Tom, for now. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm going to shut up.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. So I want to ask a question, Tom, and I know it might be a little radical. I see you looking at me, Tom. So I'm just, only because I'm curious, we spend, right, so I did the math in my little book, what about $3 million? So I don't know, maybe I added it wrong. $2.5 million in trash each year, right? That's maybe 3 million. Have we thought about doing it ourselves? I mean, I don't know what the undertaking is. I don't know, but I'm just wondering if we look at best practices, if we just think about, maybe in 10 years, we'd start to, make a profit and save money. I mean, I don't know, but $3 million a year, is it something to look at? Have you looked at it and it just isn't feasible?
So it's a wonderful question we have. So little history lesson for all of us, but we used to do our own trash here. When we had the landfill, it made sense because we sort of controlled our own destiny. Now with all the trash ending up in Pennsylvania and Ohio and things like that, it's a shrinking market right now. I will be honest with you, I would say we're better served putting our money into tightening our own ordinance. So if it'll take a little, I think I talked about it last year, it'll take some intestinal fortitude, but we need to come up with 3 strikes and you're out. And I'm willing to do this, but just getting people to put the cover on a trash can would take 25% of the weight that it's just money we're throwing out the door. Allowing people to put black plastic bags on the curb where the animals open the bags and eat them. I just think we have a very, that transient population I told you about, they just are, West Haven is just a place where they keep their stuff. And we're probably not going to get through to them, but I think it's worth the effort. And maybe we do look at what we were talking about. Do we provide the cans and then say there's zero tolerance going forward? I do think that that's probably something as a city we should tackle.
All right, thank you. Chairman Quagliani, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councilman Hosty. Yeah, Tom, I just want to expand on that because you and I have had this conversation offline, and I really do think as a community, and you're right, it won't be easy, but I think we really need to, again, issue a trash can or 2 and a recycle bin can with lids, because I mean, you're exactly right. Between the people that throw the trash bags out and the animals get at it, or when it's a windy day and all your recycling ends up, down the street or in the water courses or wherever it may be, I just think, it will pay for itself in the long run and make the city cleaner. And then that's the bin that they have to use. They have the special machines, they come in, they lift the cans, and they're done with it. Just, I think the sweet spot's going to be is what's the number, right? How many cans does each community allow? But I really would like, especially if we have an opportunity with some of this extra funding to really look at that thoroughly. I think now's the time.
Yeah, Chairman, we were looking at, so we did a quick look at 21,000 houses times about $15 a can, which would take care of the recycling. That translates to about $315,000, and that would just put a dent in the recycling. We'd have to work out how many cans do you get? Do we subsidize the cans? So I think it's a good beginning conversation, but this is the topic for us to tackle right now because it's not getting better.
Yeah, and I think if we could look at it, I think, Milford, New Haven, I believe there are 2 communities that use that, but let's see what they're doing and how they're doing it, right? I think if we could do some information gathering, I really do think now is the time, because, and it's throughout the city. There's not one particular area or another. It's just, you see it all over the place. And a lot of it, I think, there's some people that, just don't care, but there's others that do put the trash out. And then in the course of the evening, whether it's weather or animals, that trash ends up, all over the place.
I agree completely.
So I wanted to point out, thank you, Councilman Hosky.
Any additional questions? Okay. Oh, Councilwoman Hamilton?
I'm just going back to that overtime line, and I'm wondering, I mean, you seem pretty okay with it, but I'm just wondering, I know it was because of storms and that we can't control, and it wouldn't matter how many employees you had under you. But to soften that number, do you think that, would it be, I don't know, I didn't do the math, and maybe you can help me, like another person would help kind of soften that overtime line?
No, it wouldn't, Council. So like we were eligible for a lot of our overtime expenses to come back under COVID as well. I posted a public works employee at the door of City Hall for over a year now.
Yeah.
So that we're, and again, a local newspaper asked us in the wintertime, how many storms did we plan for? Well, the answer is all of them. I mean, we don't just get to say there's 3 storms and we're going home, we're done now. So it's a hard question. Like 2 years ago, we were very favorable, but it's just the luck of the draw. And then COVID hit. So I think we couldn't even predict, we have to put a number in, but it's impossible to predict what our overtime will be because you just don't know what will happen.
Fair enough. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
I loved that answer. How many storms did you plan for? All of them. I think.
I couldn't put that answer in, but that's the.
Listen, that's I mean, you hear that all the time in the utility, like, well, did you plan for this storm? Well, we did, but you really don't know what happens until when it's over.
Right.
So, you get mutual assistance, you do all of this. And I also know just from my own experience that people are like, well, why didn't West Haven go out and get help? Well, all those people that were helping were getting top dollar to help the utility companies put the lights back on. So no, they weren't going to come and cut the tree down that was on the green. I mean, they just weren't going unless you were going to spend 4 times, the money. So that was a good answer. I've heard that answer before, stuff like that. Any other questions for Tom or Abdul? I know Lou is with us as well. Oh, Chairman Quagliani, I saw the hand.
Yeah, thank you. No, I don't have so much a question, but I do want to acknowledge the Water Pollution Commission, representative that's here and their budget and their operations. I mean, I really think we've come a long way, with that facility and the operations there, and they're managing a good budget. So I just wanted to make that comment and let them know that while we don't have all that much authority over their budget, we do look at their budget and I appreciate the work that they do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That means a lot to those guys. They really, when a lot of people were very nervous about what was going through the sewer system, these guys were down there dealing with everything. We look to have a $1 million plus surplus down there. And, we've held up, we're in the top 5 again in the nitrogen credits in the state. We've moved up every year. So we're very proud of what we have work to do, but we're very proud of what they've accomplished. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can Abdul, maybe I just wanted to give you a moment to explain, or maybe Tom, you want to do it. I think that we have had when we have the brown water, people assume it's something going on with West Haven. Oh, there's West Haven again. People really don't understand where like the brown water comes from.
Sure.
Low water levels, and it has everything not to do with us. Do you maybe just want to take 30 seconds just to talk about that
Sure.
and explain to people where that how that happened?
More than happy to, and I appreciate the opportunity. So it's the very same thing will happen. God forbid, we don't want anyone to ever experience a house fire. But if you have a house fire and you have a sprinkler system, what happens is the pipes themselves, there is inherent rust, there is inherent settling of sediment to the bottom of the pipe. When you open the hydrant to just test it, not enough water comes out that it disturbs what has been left sitting in the bottom of the pipe. When you have a fire or a water main break, it charges the system and runs the water completely through. That displaces and dislodges the sediment and the rust, and that's why you get that brown color. It's actually the positive flow of water has stirred up what was sitting at the bottom of the pipe. It's not indicative of bad water. Sometimes it is, but for the most part, that's the reason you get the brown water in your pipes.
Perfect. Any other questions? We're right around 7 o'clock. Well, I guess that is it. Again, I just want to thank you, Tom, Abdul, and your crew for joining us this evening. We really do appreciate all that you guys do for the city. And I really just can't wait to see, the parks this summer. I'm really excited. I'm excited about what you guys did at Nike Park. I'm excited about the work that was done.
We didn't even talk about the centenary. There'll be banners everywhere. We're going to dress up the city for our own birthday party. So
I'm excited. I really am. It's going to be a really good time. And I know the Memorial Day Parade is coming, so you guys will be ready for that. So it's exciting. Thank you guys so much.
thank you guys for all you do.
Absolutely. It's just now 7:01, and Frank, you're on deck. Are you excited?
I can't contain myself.
Is there anything that you would like to go over first, or do you want to just open it up to the council with questions? Completely up to you.
No, I'll just hit a couple of high notes if I may. So, the past year has been a little difficult for us with COVID and everything else. Going to a 4-day week, it's made it difficult with finance to get everything it needed to be done, actually done. There's been a lot of, kind of weekends and nights for Bob and myself, but the team really pulled together. I thought they really did a great job. One thing I don't have on here as an accomplishment, but I probably should have is, we had the first on-time audit in more than a decade. And, we're looking forward. We've already started, as a matter of fact, the communication with the auditors for the upcoming audit. So we intend to be done earlier than we were this year. So looking forward to that. As far as people go, we're making some structural changes within the department. We're redefining some of the roles and responsibilities. And you could see that on the personnel page. We're kind of defunding old positions, creating new positions. One thing I will say is, with the exception of the administrative clerk, the floater position that is new, if the chief accountant and the junior accountant, the / grants accountant is not approved, then I need to put the money back in for the positions that were defunded. I can't lose 3 people. So
Can you just say that one more time? Because I think that was a really great selling point. I loved that. So just so we got it, let me write it down.
So if you defund the new positions, I got to have the old ones back again. There's increase year over year, but that's being driven from the administrative clerk. There were audit notes for the past 2 years regarding kind of the record keeping around the bid documents and some of the purchasing activities, around the grants documents. So this position will aid with the filing and the clerical duties, not only for grants and for purchasing, but also for accounts payable. and kind of as a floater position, if somebody is needed in tax or the assessor's office or anywhere else, this person would be able to slide in and offer some temporary help. Other than that, everything is pretty much flat year over year. The only other thing that we're doing is we've reduced, or actually we've eliminated, the consulting services MARB line, because as we are coming to the end of, hopefully coming to the end of our relationship with the MARB, they will have less things for us to do requiring consultants. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and I will answer whatever questions you have.
Okay, do we, Chairman Quagliani?
Thank you, Councilman Hosty. Frank, listen, I just want to, before I even start, I have a couple of questions, but I want to make a comment. I want to thank you for your thoroughness and your stick-to-itness and your demeanor regarding not only through the budget process and the product that you put out, but in your role as, and maybe I'll anoint you to this role, but it's not the official role, but as your role as liaison between the city and the MARB board. So, it's clear to me from listening to the MARB and watching the MARB that the MARB has a lot of trust and confidence in your abilities, as do we. And I think that's important, right? So I thank you for taking on that, that role, because it's a difficult role, right? I think, I cringe sometimes, and I think you handle it sometimes better than I would handle it, but I just want you to know that I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for the comments. I appreciate that.
So I want to go into the MARB. So I did listen to the MARB meeting today, and while there was a lot of discussion and it was a lengthy meeting, it appears to me that there really are no other recommendations that they have for the council regarding this budget that we haven't already tended to. Is that correct, or is there something that I'm missing? I know that we took care of the Allentown issue, and then I know there was some discussion on the ARP funding and whether it goes into a special account or not, but I'm not aware of anything else. Is that correct?
That's correct. Those are the two biggest items that they were concerned about, and Allentown has been taken care of. There is still discussions going around the ARP funding as to whether you can or can't. Looking at other towns, other budgets, it's kind of a mixed bag, because there's no guidance really. The money's out there, or we were told the money's coming, and that was it. There was really no guidance as to what we can or can't do with it. So the mayor and Mike DeMassa have gone through the budget and identified activities that will more than likely be COVID related. And that's what they are doing to justify using that ARP funding.
No, thank you. And I mean, again, we're going to continue to go through the budget and deliberate and talk about specific line items, but overall, I think you put together a very sound budget. So I do appreciate that. The one thing that and maybe I hope you're the person I could ask this question to, but I remember, I think it was the last time we had revaluation, because it's a mixed bag, right? So when we've adjusted the mill rate, most 80% of the community likely will not see any increase or decrease, and then there's that other 20%. Some may see a decrease, some may see an increase. But I know that we had put a calculator on the website so people could actually go in, plug their information in, and get a pretty good idea of what to expect come tax time. Is that something that we're looking to do again? Mayor, is it okay?
I think the mayor wants to weigh in.
Okay.
I've spoken with Leslie, and she's trying to get the information together because she does recall it from the last time. So we are working on it, because I think it will put people's minds at ease, if you will, because you don't know where you fall. I mean, are you on the high end, the low end, or in the 80% that may be flat or a little higher or a little lower? So, and that's the problem always with reevaluation. Everyone's assessment is going to be a little bit different. So it's not, it makes it very difficult. And we spent a lot of time trying to get the fairest, tax rate for all of the residents. And it did take quite a few hours and spreadsheets and figuring it out. So.
Yeah, and it's just hard to talk theoretically, right? Because depending on, your particular situation, so again, I think it would take the guessing and some of the anxiety out of it if somebody could just go in there, plug that information in, and then they could identify what their tax rate's going to be.
Oh, I agree. And one other thing I do want to add about the American Recovery Plan, that funding. So during the MARB meeting, I actually got the stuff from Martin Heft that asked, for us to apply to it and make sure that we had it in by May the 3rd. Well, I had ours in this afternoon. So I don't know if I was the first one, but to make sure I worked with finance to get the correct numbers. I worked with Doug Coulter and got the application in and got a thank you from Mr. Heft. So I know we received it. And I told him if we need anything else, just let me know. So I wanted to make sure we weren't cramming at the deadline. There was no reason not to do it today.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Hoskin. All set.
Well, one thing more, Mr. Chairman, is that it's important, I think, for the residents to realize that, and I've used this example in the past, the mill rate and the grand list are kind of a symbiotic relationship. It's really a water balloon, right? So as the grand list goes up, even though the assessed value of your property may have gone up 10 to 20%, that doesn't mean your taxes are going up 20%, because the mill rate should theoretically then come down in order to still maintain only what's needed to cover the spending.
And thank you for the, you could have that visual. And so Frank, sorry, Councilman Hoskin, I want to just follow on to that point. So one of the things that we did do as a council based on the MARB's recommendations, and I think we all believe it's the right thing to do, is the one motion that we have made so far was to increase the unfunded pension liability line in the Allentown Fire Department and establish an OPEB trust account, some advanced funding for that. I think it's $400,000 combined. So the Allentown mill rate, even though it's not down as far as the mayor's recommended budget, it still was adjusted downward from where it was. So again, Allentown is going to fall into that same mix as the rest of the city. I would assume that largely 80% will stay flat, and then there'll be others that will go down and some will go up. Is that an accurate statement?
That's correct. That's correct. The overall tax revenue being collected from the Allentown area is down a little over 4%.
Meaning that's 4% less taxes overall that Allentown residents will have to contribute, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct for the fire district.
Right. Okay, I'm all set now this time, Councilman Hoskin. Thank you.
No, thank you, Chairman. Any additional questions for Frank? Councilman Cohen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Frank. Hey, Frank, I just want to quickly walk through, just because so everyone's clear on the positions that are eliminated and the positions that are added, because, obviously different titles, we talk about stuff and it's listed otherwise in the budget itself. And I'm looking at page 51, okay? Basically, from what I gather, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here, is that we are, if you will, eliminating the chief accountant budget coordinator position. And instead, and that is going to be reclassified as an accounting specialist. Can you kind of walk us through? Because I want to make sure that we understand what's going to another department, what's been eliminated. And I just want to be very clear on each of these positions, where they're going, what they're doing.
Sure. The chief accountant / budget coordinator position is being replaced by the chief accountant.
Okay, bear with me, please. So it's being replaced by
2 lines down.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so this one's being replaced by this one. I'm with you. Keep going, please.
And the accounting specialist is
Yes,
being replaced by the junior accountant / grants accountant.
okay, that's wonderful. And my other question while we're on this page is the administrative clerk floater. About, I know you don't, just your gut feeling, is that person gonna maybe spend half of their time in, doing exactly the description you just described, and then maybe about half, to your point, being a floater for some of the other departments? Is that, I'm just trying to get a feel for it.
I would say it's probably going to be closer to 85%
So it's
dealing with
85.
finance.
Okay, so 85% dealing with the finance department, so the control, just all the stuff, if you
Yep.
will, within your departments. That's
It's all
85%.
it's all the record keeping that,
Right.
kind of the administrative stuff that we just haven't been able to get to.
Yeah, what I'm saying, because it was just put in the controllers areas. I just want to make it clear that your ask is for really the whole finance department. This person, this floater is not going to float to, I don't know, to HR or to the mayor's office or to Public Works. I mean, the idea of the floater is within your department. Is that your
No,
feeling?
as a floater, this person would be available to any department that needs administrative assistance for the day. So
Okay.
let's say that Diana Senzi in Tom's department is out for a day and they need to get something done. This person could be reassigned for the day or a couple of days. Just as, we borrowed, quote unquote, we borrowed Diane to help us
Right.
For a week to kind of get through all of the accounts payable vouchers that have not been filed in the vault. So
Yeah, well, the reason I'm saying is that they might sit in, I'm being arbitrary here just for a moment.
Yeah.
Is if they're going to spend 80 or 85% of their time in the finance area, just for argument's sake, okay? And the other 15 or 20% floating wherever they needed, just because they're sitting in another department seat, it could be, they might be working for that department, or they might just need coverage there to make sure somebody is physically there, and they could be working on your finance. I'm just being, just as an example. But okay, I was just trying to get clarity on that, and it is a full-time position, just to be clear, correct? So
it is.
So it's the 40
35 hours.
Yeah, it's 35 hours. It's 47,000 and change, plus the benefits that you basically estimated 25, at the worst scenario, 26,000.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So that's the real, just to kind of put things in, because people see a floater on the budget, they're like, well, what the heck, it's like, but it's understood. The other question that I had, and maybe this is just an increase in fees, you're on page 52, financial services. It just went up a little bit. It went up from 217,500 to 232,500. It was close to a 7% increase. Is that just they're doing more for us, or is that just a fee increase?
Yeah, that's the largest piece of that increase is coming from the auditors. So we added a little extra. Last year, we did have them do some extra work, extra analysis for us that we ended up paying for. So I added $10,000 to that line item to cover any additional analysis that the auditors are going to do. For example, right now, they are in the process of helping us with the Allentown pension analysis.
Okay, so you basically, as you feel today, that we're going to probably need that extra help or something similar in the coming fiscal year. So you really just wanted to make sure that you had that.
Yes, sir. And
okay.
and I have detail broken down by vendor that supports those numbers.
Oh yeah, no, I don't doubt that, Frank. I don't doubt that. Okay, I will say, if Madam Chair, can I have one more question? Okay, thank you. This is just clarity on purchasing. If you would take that question, page 53. I just wanted to just to confirm where we no longer have, or I don't know if this is, I don't want to say eliminated, but we didn't have a risk procurement manager. Now we are going to be hiring, or that person is the procurement manager. I just to give I know
Right,
you've
so-
talked about this before, but if you can just say it again.
Sure. So in the past, there was no risk manager. So
Right.
so procurement and risk management was being done by one individual. He has moved on now, and we do have an individual who is transitioning this week into the purchasing position. So there's a full-time purchasing manager and a full-time risk manager
Right, with the risk managers in the other.
in another department.
Right, right, yeah, but what I'm saying is, so you're basically just reclassify the position as the procurement manager, where before that was being done, I would say, being shared part-time, if you will, so this is a full-time.
That's correct.
So, okay, now I just wanted to make sure, because I know the other department, to your point, it was swapped over.
Yep.
Okay. That is, well, guess what? I'm gonna give somebody else a turn. That's all I have for now. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Frank.
Frank, can I ask a question? I thought last year, and maybe it was in previous years, that we had talked about the grants writer reporting to you in the finance department. Was that a dream, or did we actually have that discussion last year? Because I see that he's still, or they, is still in planning and development. I thought when we just were looking at relationships and what made sense, that I just see that it didn't happen in this budget, and I'm just wondering if was there a decision for it not to occur?
Oh, Mayor, go ahead.
Mayor Rossi, I'm sorry, I should have
Yes.
asked you. I
So that's,
apologize.
yes, the reason is that what happened was in the past, personalities were dictating, and I don't mean Frank, and I don't want to get into previous, personnel issues, but our charter states the grants writer is supposed to be under planning and development, and that's where the grants writer is. And I can see, and again, that doesn't mean that if the grants writer needs to talk to finance, Frank won't talk to him or anything, of course he will. But the grants writer is really in planning and development. It's clearly in the charter that way. So unless there is charter revision one day to change that, that's where we're going to leave it. So it never really ever got completely into finance, if you will, like it was kind of but that's what happened. And it was more personalities dictating and not necessarily what the charter or what, the rules say.
No, and that's I knew there was something, and I just didn't remember why. And then when I saw it, I thought to myself, why isn't it over there? So thank you. I won't ask next year if I'm in this position to ask. I'll remember. Councilwoman Hamilton, did you have a question? I think I saw you waving. No? Okay. Any other questions for Frank?
I just had a quick question, kind of dovetailing off of Chairman Quagliani, just saying I hear you and how you handle yourself with the MARB, and you have you're smooth with them and they seem to respect you, and I just want to say thank you for representing us with the MARB. Thanks.
Thank you. It's all an illusion. It's like a duck on the water.
I agree both with Majority Leader Hamilton and Chairman Quagliani. They really do have great things to say, and it is a testament to the work you do as well, because those first couple of meetings, even when they didn't have a lot of nice things to say, you were still, I probably wouldn't have been able to handle myself under such scrutiny as well as you. Any other questions? Chairman.
Frank, just a quick question. So with the procurement manager coming full-time now, next year's audit, that finding will be removed, right?
That is the goal. In fact, I had a conversation with him today. So what he and I are going to do is kind of map out the current process, find out where we've got the gaps and what we need to do to fix that.
Great. Thank you. Well said, Councilman Hosky. Thank you.
I love everything about your answers, Frank. Even when I listened to you with the MARB today, how you're I feel like your to-do list is very coordinated. Growing, yes. Any other questions for Frank? Chairman, Councilman Cohen, you're good? Oh, you just look, yeah. You look like you want to say something.
No, I just want to make sure that, I don't want you to leave yet, Frank.
I knew I couldn't get away that easy.
No, you're gonna stay here to address the question in IT as soon as I can't read the clock and have my glasses on when 7:30 arrives.
6 minutes, yeah.
Oh, okay, then I'll shut up. I just want to make sure you weren't leaving us. Okay.
Any other questions? Frank, who knew that we didn't have that much to say to you?
Well, you know what they say, baffle them with BS and you can get away with things.
Nice.
We know that's not true though, Frank.
No, we do. We know it is not true. So at this time, we're gonna go into recess for 5 minutes. I'll see everybody back at 7:30 so we can speak to our new IT guy. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Okay, so we are back out of recess. And we have Jermaine Samuels with us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
No problem.
So normally you can start off if there's just some things that you want to tell us about, share with us. I know if there's any highlights. I believe our first conversation, you told me you saved us $30,000, so you could want to, pat yourself on the back and tell us a couple of good stories. You're more than welcome, but it's up to you.
Yeah, sure. I can start with talking about currently in the transition now of after taking a deep dive on our current infrastructure here for the city of West Haven. I'm now starting to look at some additional savings in terms of our current website, which is hosted through Civics Plus. Apparently, our contract was expired for a while now, and we're looking to renew it. However, with renewing it, we're going to see some kind of cost reduction there in terms of signing a new contract with Civic Plus. There's a lot of other things I've seen so far in terms of cost saving initiatives. I think that's something that we would have to discuss offline. In terms of the budgeting here, I'm not sure if you guys want to ask any questions regarding that.
We can. So when you're saying offline, you mean some of the suggestions, just because I want to make sure, can you not do that? Make sure that we have like an executive session that it needs to be.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the public understands what we're getting to. So sure, we can ask questions. I do have one question for you. Can you explain maybe the difference between your position and the position that you have the supervisor that's under you?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
So our network supervisor, his role here for the city of West Haven will be to help administer like COVID clinics, help in terms of troubleshooting any break fixes, help in terms of implementing any new hardware that needs to be put in place at any one of our remote locations. In any event that I cannot get there because I need to be at the office in order to help with other things for our server infrastructure. And my specific role is to make sure that everything is running accordingly for the city of West Haven.
And you do everything you do and in your job just covers the city of West Haven, not and what I'm saying is that you don't do anything for the fire departments, the police department, the Board of Ed, the library, any of those, what I would consider like an extended family or a branch of the city.
So we don't do anything for the police department, but we do have infrastructure at the police department in terms of networking infrastructure. At our current location now for the city of West Haven, we have what's called a mesh kind of system where we connect into their systems as well in terms of networking, but they actually manage their own stuff. I know in terms of Board of Ed, we have a third-party consultant that manages their IT stuff. We also have for the West Haven PD, I know they have someone there that manages their IT stuff as well. And they also use a third party. But we're gonna be specifically managing West Haven and Parks Rec and a few other locations in terms of networking.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Jermaine? I have a few more, but Councilman Cohen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, sir. We haven't met before, but you are quite an impressive individual from what I'm hearing. So God bless you.
Thank you.
You know, this question is I'm gonna direct it towards you and Frank, because only because he wrote up the card deck and you didn't. So I'm gonna put him under the grill, and then you can both embellish. Sure. You know, the IT network supervisor, at least the original intent, and has at least you know, I've listened in on pretty much all the MARB meetings, and you know, it's pretty much what Frank had written here. It provides on-site technical support and added capacity, which would reduce the need for outside consulting fees paid for routine needs. Now, obviously, that's a big deal in addition to some of the things that you just said. So my question is just based on how this was provided to the council, and the position itself is just under $81,000. If I'm reading that correctly, it's just under $81,000. And then if you add benefits to it, you're talking about over $100,000 for a new person, 110 based on whatever health plan they have. And so my question is and I'm going to throw this up to you or Frank, just historically, is like, you know, the on-site technical support, what were we paying for on-site technical support, you know, alone, if you will, because, you know, I mean, was it more, I'm being stupid, was it more than $100,000? I'm not saying it has to be, but can you give me some idea, like, you know, because it's, you know, it's important to know that we're going to be hiring a new person, and if the primary thing was that technical support and added capacity, you know, what are we really saving by doing that?
So I can answer that at a high level, and I'm gonna let Frank add to that. So far since I've been here, I know that we spend roughly about $160 per hour for on-site technical support. We typically buy the hours in blocks from the company, the third-party company we use. And I believe this year they actually went up to $200 per hour. And as of right now, since I've started, I've actually been notating that the third-party company is at the city of West Haven every Tuesday for roughly about 8 to 9 hours. Now, I know previously, before I got here, it seems like we needed more support then, and we were actually paying for more hours. But I'm gonna pass it to Frank and let Frank add anything he needs to there.
Yes, so in the past, it was a kind of a one-day support. What we saw in the last year, once, you know, as we're trying to shore up the department, we did see increased usage. This position is coming as a direct result of the IT study that was done and some of the gaps that were identified. I think what you'll probably be seeing in future meetings is, as we start talking about capital requirements around the infrastructure itself is woefully outdated. So a lot of this is going to be beyond the capabilities of Jermaine, right? As we start moving towards what an IT department really should look like in the city to support what we need. And that's not to say that just because the person is on the city side, that, you know, if there's a problem on the Board of Ed, or if there's a problem with the police, that individual couldn't, you know, jump in and lend a hand, as opposed to them having to go to an outside provider as well.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked that, if I can just follow up, Madam Chair, on that question, is, you know, and again, this is just probably the inappropriate, I know it's the wrong way to do it, but just to kind of leverage what you're saying, what Jermaine said is, if you basically take 9 hours times 1 day a week, $1,800 times 52 weeks, it's 93,600. But with that, it's such a marginal $10,000-$15,000 difference between the two. But I think just based on your write-up, even though, so everyone's aware that if this position gets approved, yes, it's going to reduce much of it, but you are still, according to what you've written here, you're still going to need some outside consulting, even with this position. So at least it reads to me. Am I correct? And if so, how much have we budgeted for that outside consulting? I mean, it won't be as much, obviously, but what are you looking at?
Yeah, it would be,
Maybe I missed it in the budget.
it would be a minimal amount. We're looking
20,000?
at,
Yeah.
we're looking at, I would say at the most, maybe 10 grand.
Okay, so basically they're pretty much in parity then. I'm just saying, but you're going to have somebody whenever you want them, how you want them, whatever, versus the 1 day a week. Okay, because I'm just saying, so it looks, 93,6, add another 10,000 onto it. You're pretty much
right.
You're pretty much at parity. I just didn't want to say, okay, we take a look at approving this position, which is, to your point, to get us where we need to go in the vision of what an IT department should look like. And then we, there's some departments in the past that have asked for, well, we want this new position, then we want another $50,000 for outside, support. And I'm not arguing with that, but in this case, what you're saying is it's going to be, I'll use the word modest, but another 10, 15,000 is what I'm hearing from you.
I would be surprised if we needed that.
Okay, no, that's okay. As I said, I know this is thumbnail right now. I'm not holding you to it. But
one thing to remember too, Councilman, is that most third-party service providers, I'll say, even though they're there 1 day a week, if there is an emergency and we need to call them in, typically that would be at a premium. So by having a person on site, we would, I've seen companies where, right, let's say it's a $150 an hour, we'll get there and we'll do what we need, but you'd need me to drop what I'm doing and get over there and forget about this client over here I was going to go see. We're going to jack the price up a little bit.
Yeah.
So by having somebody on site, it eliminates the need for kind of that emergency support.
Okay, one last question as a follow-up, and then I'll be done, I promise. Is this a union position, or is this just in a management position or a union? Is the reason I'm asking is you brought up something interesting. Something could happen at any time. Of course, we don't like emergency, but it could happen on a Saturday night. It could happen on Sunday. It could happen at 11 o'clock at night. This is, it's a stupid question. Is it like an hourly thing that there's going to be some type of double? And again, I'm just trying to think about, this is a salaried position. So do we pay them overtime when these things happen or what? I'm just trying
to. Well, it's not a salaried position. It would be just as Jermaine, it would be an hourly position.
Right.
Within the union. So if there is an emergency at night, contractually, we would pay whatever overtime is needed.
Well, and that's my question, because in your overtime budget, maybe I'm reading this wrong, you don't have anything budgeted for overtime.
Yeah, we're not planning on.
Okay, no, what I'm saying is but just like Tom McCarthy said, you don't know what you don't know. We don't plan for an outage, we don't plan for whatever, but I was just, and again, I'm not saying to add overtime. I'm just trying to understand the position that there is.
It's purely because this individual is in the 1103 union, which is not necessarily overtime, but any extra work would go towards comp time.
Oh, the person you already have picked up. Okay,
that's
all right.
correct.
Yeah, okay, because that was my question.
So that's why there's no overtime in there.
Gotcha. Thank you very much, Frank. Samuel.
Thank you.
Samuels, and thank you, Madam Chair. I can now shut up. Thank you. Bye.
Does anyone else? Councilwoman Hamilton?
Welcome, Mr. Samuels.
Thank you.
I just want to ask, I know some time ago, pre-you, we talked about different offices within Town Hall talking to each other. Assessor's office, tax offices, building departments. coming for permits, but have they paid their taxes on whatever, right? Is that in the works or is that happening at this time? Can you tell me?
Yeah, our systems are talking to each other from a networking perspective. I know that for, I believe it's the state, we actually provide them with phone services. But in terms of networking, I think they want their separate network. They're on a separate network. But all the different departments in our office does talk to each other. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
That's it.
As a follow-up to Councilwoman Hamilton's question, it's my understanding that the police department and City Hall, they don't talk to each other. And I mean that if somebody was going to City Hall to get proof that their car taxes are paid, there's no way for anybody at City Hall to know that they have a $200 ticket at the police department, which is something that I know that we've always wanted because it will kind of help us get that money. Has that been rectified, or it's not part of the answer you gave Councilwoman Hamilton?
No, that's not part of the answer I just gave Councilwoman Hamilton. The reason is it sounds like what you're referring to is a different what's called maybe like a ERP system that you can actually see the tickets in that system on the police side. From a networking perspective, I was saying that they do talk to each other in the City Hall office, right? So that means that if a certain department need a file based on our group policy and how it's set up, we can make it that that department can get that file from a networking perspective. In terms of talking to the police department with the system, their ticketing system, no, not at City Hall, not that I know of at least.
So in your experience, because I'm not even close, I just kind of know what I know, like, what Councilman Cohen was saying and Tom was saying, you kind of just know what you know until you know it or don't know. I believe that's a problem, right? I believe that, we allow people to go and get permits and, they owe us money. They're allowed to register their vehicles and they have parking tickets. That's a problem for me. It was always a problem for me even before I was on the council, because I think that it's just not efficient business. Like, people should pay their bills and we should have a way of collecting them and holding them to that. How do we fix that? Like what would need to, like, is it just a humongous overhaul to get that done? Like what is stopping that?
So I'm not 100% sure if it's gonna be a humongous thing to just try to implement that in the city of West Haven. As I said, I think it depends on, I'm not sure what system the police department is using. However, if it's a cloud-based system and we can integrate with that system, the only thing that would need to happen is to take a look at the networking environment and figure out how is it that the city of West Haven can talk to the PD department and possibly have the same system in West Haven that the police department is using. This way, they can pull databases from the same system that the West Haven Police Department is using. And that will correct that issue. But I can definitely go ahead and look into that and figure out how we can actually rectify that.
So, does anyone else have a question? Because I have a follow-up, Chairman Quagliani.
No, I want to follow on that point because we've been talking about this for, at least I've been talking about it for quite a few years, but I think the issue is like a one-stop shop kind of thing, right? So if you're going to the tax office to pay your car taxes, the tax office employee would have the ability to look in the system and say, oh, look, you know, you have a blight fine over from the building department, you have a parking ticket at the police department, but instead of you having to go to the building department and then drive up to the police department and then come back here and give us receipts, we can handle all that for you. You know, I think that's what, you know, we've been looking to try to get to, you know, regarding a system like that. And I know, you know, the tax office is on one system for their tax database and the police department is on another system, you know, for their parking tickets. But I believe there's some type of manual function that happens now, but it's not efficient and it's not, it doesn't really make the taxpayer happy, right? To be able to have to, to do that. So I think that's, for me personally, that's where I would like to be able to see us get. So when you go into an office, it's a one-stop shop. It doesn't matter what office you're in.
I agree with you. It's something that we would have to take a look into. I'm pretty sure there's some kind of cloud-based system out there that a lot of municipalities are actually using for that purpose. It's modern time now. I'm pretty sure that it's out there. It's just that we actually have to go find it and implement it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does anyone else have a question? I want to. Okay, so I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off, Jermaine, because we had this conversation last year, and I'm just trying to figure out the best way to say it, because when I was saying it last year, I think I was a little bit misunderstood. So when we talk about all of this, and then I say about the different departments in the city being able to talk, I believe that you get more bang for the buck, right? You go to, you go anywhere and you know, you have 5 cars, you get better car insurance, right? You get a better price. So we had talked about last year doing an IT study to see if the way we do IT in the city of West Haven was efficient. And it was never about not having an IT person. It was about how do we get all of the systems run under one, right? That everyone is being able to share, that, you know, the fire department, if they needed to, because sometimes the fire marshals, I think, have to go in on a yearly basis or 2-year basis and do house inspections, right? And if you're going to go in and pay your taxes, well, you got to go, you know, the fire marshal has an alert on your account and there's a problem. Sorry, my dog almost fell. So the idea was that we would do an IT study to see if the Board of Ed, the library, the fire department, and everyone could use one system with a company, or, you know, what was the best practice? What was the best bang for our money if you pooled all of these very large units that do all these separate things? And then that person in the IT, you would then run it all. You'd oversee it. You'd oversee the vendor and making sure those relationships work. Always making sure the mayor could get into her laptop or her desktop and that there weren't any issues. And, you know, we had the IT study through the auditor, but we never had the IT study to see if, as a city, not just the city and city hall, but just as a city, how could we pool resources and do it all together? So that never came to pass. That study never went out. I'm a supporter of like possibly having that, because I think if we could get the 3 fire departments and everybody doing it, can we just get a better price on this software that you have to buy? And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just I
So,
mean, do you know anything about other municipalities and what they do and how they manage that?
I don't know the details of other municipalities, but I do remember visiting a smart city. I think it was in Silicon Valley that they had, everything was under one umbrella. And again, when you do things like that, you do see humongous cost savings when you do things like that. But I think the first thing we need to look at is we need to take a look at all the different systems that are currently being used at every different entity, right? So we're talking the fire department, we're talking the police department, we're talking Board of Ed. And then we have to figure out, well, how does these system work and how do we incorporate these systems in one for the city of West Haven? This way everyone can talk to each other. Perfect example right now would be one system I can say that, can actually, you can see a lot of cost savings is, I'm not sure what the other, what Board of Ed is on or what the police department is on, but Microsoft Office 365, for instance, that's our email system, right? So we are currently on Office Exchange 2010, right? Office Exchange 2010 is currently at end of life. There's some issues there that we need to discuss. But if we were to get everyone, the Board of Ed, the police department, and the fire departments under that one system, then we're going to see a very huge cost savings there. And then from an email perspective, everyone can talk to each other, right? And Microsoft also have this thing called Microsoft PBX. So now from a phone system perspective, you can see cost reductions there because now you can utilize Microsoft Office 365 as a phone system with their Microsoft PBX phone system. So in terms of us right now, we currently use ShoreTel as our phone system. We can actually get rid of that and we can see cost savings there as well. So again, it's going to take for, everyone to start working together from a higher level in terms of IT in order to find out how these systems work and how do we go and find system that can incorporate everything so everyone can be on the same platform.
You explained it far better than what my mind would, but that is pretty much kind of what, I think was the idea of the council last year was to just see, pooling the resources to where if one service, could be utilized. So I thank you very much for that. Frank or Mayor Rossi, do you have any update on where we might stand with sending out an RFP for, a study to, possibly address some of the really great things that Jermaine just brought up, but just some as well as the things that we thought about last year in trying to just do that, seeing what we could come up with.
My first would be that if this is what you want to do, before we send out an RFP, you need to check with all the entities you just spoke about. For instance, the Board of Ed, as we know, is independent of the city. And again, you would have to check with the superintendent and the elected Board of Ed to find out if they even want to sign on for this, because we could go and do this study and it could come back. And if you don't have the permission from the 2 independent fire districts, the Board of Fire Commissioners for Allentown, or the Board of Ed, you're going to have pieces missing. Same thing with, I know you wanted to include the library. So that would be up to their board of directors. So the first thing would be a conversation with the parties to see if, they wanted to engage. Now, sure Frank or I would be more than happy to ask them. I don't have a problem with that. I'm sure Frank doesn't have a problem with it, to see if they want to sign on. I think that would be the first piece before we get an RFP, because if they say, no, I'm not going to do it, can't make, the independent entities do it. So I'm just saying that's unfortunately, but the way it works. Same thing with the the center and West Shore, and even Allingtown. Allingtown is a separate entity with their own board of fire commissioners. So the board of fire commissioners would have to be consulted. That would be the first step. Then I agree. I don't see any reason, especially now that we have procurement and our purchasing agent will be in place. It'll be a lot easier to do RFPs because we'll have a person that's what they do. And not only that, but all the purchasing things. And then we take a look at it and then make a decision. Frank, I don't know if you have anything to add, if I missed anything.
No, I think the only thing I would add, Councilwoman Hosky, is I would want Jermaine to do his own assessment of where we are. Maybe we wouldn't need to do an RFP, spend money on that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that yet. But I would like to get his opinion once he takes a look at everything else. Maybe he does have some ideas on how we can consolidate the costs around there.
Right. I absolutely agree, Frank. I think that Jermaine is the expert, and I am encouraged by his comments this evening to believe that he has the best interests of the city and the taxpayers as his driving force. I do know last year, Mayor Rossi, that I actually did speak with the Board of Ed and had those preliminary conversations where they were interested in seeing, because if they could save money, but that was a year ago. That was this time. So it's been a year and time has passed. So I don't know what's going on. And no, we can't force them. We can't force Allentown to join in, but I think the influence of saving money, as far as the Board of Ed, the library, yeah, they could do whatever they want with their budget, but if they're gonna save $50,000 a year, then I don't see why they wouldn't want to do it. So I'm just excited. I think that, just to say that I personally believe that if we can't, at Jermaine, I'm sure you know that this budget year ends June 30th. So if you can't get it all done by then, we need another $25,000 set aside in the upcoming budget year to do a study. So I'm very encouraged to, see what you can do, excited to find out. And I think then we need to set aside some money in this budget, this upcoming budget, just in case we do need an outside study. And that's all I have to say. Does anyone else have any additional questions or comments for Jermaine regarding IT? Okay, then. Well, we thank you again, Jermaine, for joining us this evening. We look forward to hearing back from you. And the time is 8:04, and we are in recess until tomorrow evening at 6 a.m. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.